Hey everybody, Shane here, Shoebox Legends. Thanks for stopping by today. In this episode, we're going to take a look at two brand new pickups for my baseball card collection, and I'm really excited about both of these. They're pretty big cards in my opinion, maybe not the world's most expensive cards, but I think they're very significant, and each one represents a theme in collecting that I want to talk about just for a couple minutes as I show each card. So we have a modern card that was actually just released this year, in fact, in 2023. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, a vintage card from the golden era of baseball, or vintage baseball cards in the 1950s. So we're going to start with the modern card. And the theme that I wanted to talk about here is risk quickly. So I did an episode recently on the inherent risk in collecting modern cards, was sort of in response to the developing Wander Franco scenario at the time. And obviously with that example, a little bit of a negative connotation, but just the discussion on, the unavoidable risk when these guys haven't finished their careers yet. You don't know how things are going to turn out when you're collecting young players' cards. But I do think there's positive risk in the hobby as well, or at least more acceptable risk. And the modern card that I have to show is an example of that. So for those of us who have been on eBay for years now, or have a lot of experience on eBay, we know that eBay primarily in almost any dispute is going to side with the buyer in any particular auction or transaction. It's very difficult to get representation as a seller if something goes wrong, and it's very easy as a buyer to file a dispute and essentially get your money back. So because of that, I feel pretty protected on eBay when I'm purchasing a card, and sometimes, as in this case, I'll kind of roll the dice on a scenario that maybe seems a little sketchy at face value, but it's not huge dollars, and if it goes south, I feel like I can get my money back. And that's what I did here. So this card surfaced, terrible auction title. I don't think it said anything about the serial numbering on this card. The photo was like in a dark room, and the flash from the camera was right in the middle of the card, so you could barely see it. And then the seller had a feedback rating of 0, which is like, so major red flags all over this thing. The description was poor, but this was up for less than the cost of a blaster of 2023 Topps Chrome. So I went for it, I rolled the dice, and a few days later, lo and behold, this beauty showed up in the mailbox. The 2023 Topps Chrome Gold Refractor Mookie Betts. I mean, I could not be happier with the condition here. It's well centered. I didn't see any real flaws with the surface or corners. I mean, I'm not a professional grader by any means, but absolutely gorgeous card. And at the time when I picked this up, his cards were going bananas, especially his 2023 Topps Chrome, because Topps has that buyback program now where, whoever gets the MVP, their cards out of Chrome are going to be very valuable to sell back to Topps, essentially. And that combined with the season that Mookie is having, he's just been off the charts. But yeah, just an example here where some calculated hobby risk worked out in my favor, and I got this card at a criminally low price. I think it's probably a scenario where this person just opened a blaster or a few hobby packs of this product and really didn't have any idea what they had or what they were really doing. But props to them. It was well packaged. It arrived in like 2 days, like record time. So I'm happy to say I left this particular gentleman his first ever eBay positive feedback. So he now has a feedback score of 1. And I have that gorgeous Topps Chrome Gold to 50 Mookie Betts, which is my first true Topps Chrome Gold Mookie Betts out of 50 in my collection after all these years of collecting Mookie, and at a very bargain price. Couldn't be happier with how that turned out. So there's an example of risk working as a positive for you in the hobby. And now for the second example today, an even cooler card, or at least I think many of you will probably feel that way. Finally landed a vintage card from the 1950s that I have been after for probably about 1.5 to 2 years in terms of a daily, saved eBay search and just scouring examples on eBay and MySlabs. And the problem with this is a card from the 1957 Topps set, and as vintage collectors know, it is maybe one of, if not the most difficult sets as far as centering goes. And I could never find a copy of this card that was decently centered but low grade to keep it affordable with high eye appeal. There's just not a lot of them out there. This is a player who's often cited as, potentially the best in baseball history, certainly in the conversation. And so without any further suspense, I guess the theme here is patience, because there were many times over the last 2 years where I came close to just clicking buy it now or bidding on a copy of this card that, looked okay, but really wasn't up to the standard that I wanted. And in the end, I would always back out. And, I'm very, very pleased that I didn't do that and that I waited it out, because when this copy surfaced, I immediately engaged with the seller and we reached a deal, I think, in, a matter of hours of this card having been posted to eBay. And so here it is. I'm going to do a slow reveal here. But I finally landed, as you can see on the flip, the 1957 Topps Willie Mays. Huge card that I was missing for Willie. I'm not like a super collector of his or anything, but he's just such an important part of baseball history. And I love this particular image on this card. So as you can see, I got an SGC2. But as I said in the lead-in, I think this is maybe the best 2 that I've seen of this particular card in all the time that I've been watching. And it's certainly everything I will ever need from this card in my collection. So check out this SGC2 57 Topps Willie Mays. Whew. That is a gorgeous card. There's always there was a little bit of anticipation buying this online sight unseen, that when it shows up, will it really be as beautiful as it looked in the scans, on the eBay listing. And yeah, having had this in hand for about 2 or 3 days now, I can say I am beyond pleased. This is the only copy of this card that I will ever need. Will not look to upgrade it. I mean, check out. It might not be perfect. It might be, 48, 52 centering, something like that. But man, is it close. And yeah, if you've ever looked for this card, with any serious effort, it's just brutal. And I'm really, really pleased. So why did this get a 2? It's certainly not the back either. I mean, there's not like paper loss or any issues like that. No qualifiers on the card, like marked or miscut or anything. Everything's legible and intact. Back is maybe a little bit more off center than the front. Left to right, that doesn't really bother me. Something has to give. I think what did this in is surface, probably. And what's amazing about it, this card is probably maybe 6 to 8 inches from my iPhone right now shooting this video. And at least based on what I'm seeing here in the preview, I don't see any surface issues with this card. But let me show you, I'll try to capture it here, why I think this got a 2. So look just above his hands in the background here, where kind of the dark bleacher area is, right above his hands. See that? There's a surface crease on the card, very light surface crease, almost like a half moon right above his hands. And then similarly on the right side of the card, just to the right of his jersey number and up a little bit, like below this window in the stadium, right in this dark space on the card. If I tilt it right, there's another small, half moon surface crease right there. That's it. I mean, the corners aren't perfect. They're a little bit worn. Again, this is a 2, but no snow, perfect centering. As I tilt this, the surface looks just amazing. I could not be happier with this card. And I'm actually stunned that I was able to bring this home at the price point that I was. I stand by, this is probably the nicest SGC2 that I have ever seen or will ever see of this 57 Mays. So patience in the hobby and waiting it out. That copy that you want is out there, and there's other cards you can buy in the meantime. And really happy I waited for that particular Mays. And that's going to conclude this episode. Just 2 recent pickups there, spanning the spectrum of what I love in baseball. Vintage from the 1950s all the way up to modern day. Just love collecting it all. Certainly appreciate you stopping by the channel for this episode. Was really excited to unveil these 2 cards. Hope you enjoyed at least something that you saw or heard today. And as you know, I'll be back in the very near future with some more content. Till then, enjoy the hobby, everybody. See ya.